Yo, what's good, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Bedsheet BallZone. So you can tell I'm in a different area.
You got a
As you can tell,
doggo.
I got a little Baxter right here. Say what's up, Bax.
What
What's
up,
good?
Baxter?
What's good?
You can't
Okay,
hear me.
Baxter, time to go. Okay. So for this episode, we're going to be doing our Super Bowl predictions, and then we're going to talk about our good friend Luka Doncic that we kind of talked about on our last episode, and then to wrap it up, me and Ethan are going to do a new segment called Buy or Sell, where I found some tweets and we're going to either buy if we agree with the take, they're going to be hot takes, and then sell them if we're like, hell no, that's not going to
Let's
happen.
go. I'm ready
So
for it.
yeah, um, I'm excited for this episode, and yeah, let's hop right in. So first off, shout out Chiefs, shout out Niners. It's going to be a good Super Bowl.
Let's go.
And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea how the Chiefs are underdogs. I don't know what they've done to deserve that, but hopefully Chiefs plus 2.5 is going to absolutely get hammered
It will.
and I make a lot of money. So
Oh, so now you're hopping on the Chiefs wagon, huh? So now you're
no,
hopping on. Once we
I've
get to the
never
Super Bowl.
I thought winner of the Chiefs Ravens game was gonna beat the Niners. I thought the AFC was always
Really?
gonna walk away with it.
I
Yeah,
actually think, yeah,
I thought it was
I
gonna be
kind of
Ravens
did too.
though.
I think we talked
Um
about this too.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Ravens. Unfortunately, John Harbaugh is a fraud, and yeah, I already kind of spoiled it, but I do have Chiefs in this game. Um, I just we keep doubting Mahomes, and he keeps proving us wrong every time.
He's so
And
good.
I'm gonna hop off, and I'm gonna hop
He's
off and trust in him, and he's gonna solidify himself as the best 5-year stint in NFL history, even past
yeah.
the Patriots with Tom Brady,
He's
and he's gonna win his third ring. That's what I got.
there's something that I would start calling him pretty soon. It's called a GOAT.
Yeah, I think that conversation is
Yeah.
already kind of it's already kind of
Yeah,
there. Like it's
his
already a
playoff,
conversation, and he's 28, which is
yeah,
ridiculous.
his playoff dominance is amazing. And he's been a starter for 6 years. Like what? How is he this good
I know. I
within
don't,
6 years? Every single year he's basically made it to the Super Bowl. Like what?
and I don't want to only talk about the Chiefs when it comes or talk about Patrick Mahomes when it comes to the Chiefs because he's been the weak
Uh,
point.
yeah,
Low key, he's been the weak
no,
point. The
he
offense,
hasn't. I wouldn't
okay,
say he has. The
offense
offense
has been
has.
the
Yeah,
weak point.
yeah.
And that defense continues to prove itself as not only one of the youngest, but one of the most dominant uh,
Hmm.
defenses in the league. And that is thanks to arguably the best secondary in all of football.
Yeah,
And I
I
just think it's going to be too much for Kyle Shanahan and his scheme and Brock Purdy. I do think that I think the Niners are going to have they're going to have their way and they are going to score CMCs. They're going to establish a good run game. Brock Purdy's going
mhm.
to make his throws that he's going to make.
I think
Um,
CMC is going to tear us up.
yeah,
I think we'll
I don't
lock
think that
down
the
the
Niners
pass.
don't have a shot, but I think it's I think it's going to be kind of like the Ravens game where it's like pretty like the entire game it kind of just feels like the Chiefs game.
Yeah,
They've been here before multiple times. The Niners have made the Super Bowl back in what 2019 or 2020 whatever year that was. So
20.
they've been to the Super Bowl, but Chiefs have been there more and more
Yeah,
recent and they're going to have their way. Um so yeah.
yeah. The Niners, like we're kind of just almost pushing them off because we both have the Chiefs, but they are a really good team. And it's really scaring me now because a lot of people are thinking like you are. Oh shit, is Patty Mahomes in the Super Bowl? Like
Yeah.
he's gonna go and get it. And so many people are hammering the Chiefs, which is scaring me a lot. But I also said the same thing about the Bills game because a lot of people
Yeah.
had the Chiefs going in and beating the Bills, and hey, it turned out well. So, I mean, if the public favors and the public's right, I will take it. But yeah, this 49ers team is really good, and I completely understand how we're underdogs in this game. Their defense, best defense in the league. most talent in the league on defense.
Yeah,
I like best defense in the league. You can't really say that. It's a
yeah. On
day-to-day
paper, best
basis.
defense.
Yeah, yeah. And that offense, so many weapons. You got George Kittle, great tight end, blocker, amazing blocks last week, by the way. He had amazing blocks and a
Shout
great
out George
reception.
Kittle,
Yep. And then you got who else? CMC. I think he's going to kill us on the ground. I think he's
best
going
running
to
back
hit
in the
his
league.
over. I think he'll have 100 plus yards. Um,
Yeah,
Ayuk, crazy athletic guy. He's just amazing.
underrated. A lot of
And
people would say
then
underrated.
the last you got Debo Samuel.
X
And he's
factor.
yeah, he can make those plays happen. And we saw
Yeah.
that when we played them in the Super
I
Bowl
also
last
want to
time.
give credit where credit's due. They also have the best fullback in the league, Kyle UCJ,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
you know that he's
How
good
could I
for
forget?
one explosive play a game, and he's gonna have his way.
Meaningful, explosive play
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, you talked a lot about the Niners, and like you said, they're on paper. I don't even know if it's a conversation, but they are like the best team on paper.
Yeah.
And head coach, they're not lacking. They got one of the best head coaches. They got one of the best running backs, best tight ends, one of the best receiving cores, one of the best defenses, one of the best defensive players in the league. And you don't
Hmm.
even know which one I'm talking about, Fred Warner or Nick Bosa. It's like,
You
and then
don't
they
know.
also have Travarius Ward, Chase
Yeah.
Young. I mean,
Too
the team
good.
is stacked.
Too good.
The
Yeah.
team is stacked.
They're
But
so good.
I saw a stat that I think is worth noting, and it was I don't know the exact numbers, but it was like the Niners this year have not beaten a team with a top 10 secondary or something like that. And the Chiefs had the fourth best secondary all year, and there's a world where you could argue them as number one,
They have
and they
you
haven't
could argue that McDuffie and Snead are the best cornerback pair in the league.
I don't even know if that's an argument. Like they like they are
Yeah.
like this past year
Yeah.
they played like the best secondary in the league.
Yeah.
Um, And shout out Nick Bolton, like he's underrated too. Like there's a lot of good names on the Chiefs defensive side of the football, and I like I, I'm not gonna doubt the Niners and Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy because I do think Brock Purdy is a lot better than what a lot of people give him credit because a lot of people are just like, hey, he's like got a lot of talent around him. And it
Hmm.
elevates him. And yeah, that is true. But Brock Purdy is good. Like Brock Purdy is, I would argue, an above average QB. Like he's kind of slept on,
Yeah.
but he has not faced a secondary this good all year. And he hasn't been to the Super Bowl before. So pressure is going to be there. You already know that that defense is going to give him a lot of trouble in it. We're gonna have to see how he's
Yeah.
gonna bounce back. I could see a world where Niners go down early and Purdy's gonna have to throw the ball a lot. And is he gonna be able to step up to the table? That's something that
It,
we're gonna have to find out. I'm just not betting on it. Um,
it's a really, really interesting game because how the Niners have been playing, they have been starting out terribly, 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 terribly.
yeah,
And then they just cook fourth quarter, second half, whatever it is. They come back
yeah,
from their league. They're looking like the Chiefs in most of the Chiefs playoffs runs, where like in the 2020 Super Bowl,
coming from
every,
behind, yeah.
every single game that playoff, what was it? The Texans, the
That Texans game down 24 to nothing or something like
who was
that.
next? Was the Titans next? I think they were.
Uh, no, it was the
Or was it
Browns, I think. It was the Browns, and
maybe?
they were down
Yeah.
at home,
Yeah,
and they
but
had that
we
touchback. They got momentum, and then
exactly.
they took advantage of it. That's what the Chiefs do. You
It,
give them
that
any kind of momentum shift, and they capitalize. And I've
exactly.
been saying that for a while. The thing that makes the Chiefs a dynasty and what makes them so good is that when you give them any kind of wiggle room, they capitalize. Teams have such a hard time getting
Mhm.
something to go their way, and then they kind of lose it. The Chiefs never lose it. When they
Yeah.
get any amount of help, whether it be a ref, whether it be a flag, whether it be kind of like a crazy kind of lucky play, whatever it is, they
Hmm.
always capitalize. That's what they
Yeah.
do. That's what
We
Mahomes does.
feed
That's what the
off of
Chiefs do.
momentum. We
Yeah.
feed off of
They're the best team in the
especially
league
when
at
we're at
doing
home
so.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. And Las Vegas, big stage, big game. Just it
We
feels
like
like the
playing there.
Chiefs' game to lose. It truly does, and it
It
feels
it
like
does.
it
It
should
does.
be the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Um,
It does feel like the Chiefs game to lose, even though we're underdogs.
Underdogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing that has been kind of a question mark all year is Travis Kelce, and he's been the moneymaker the past
Yep.
2 weeks. So it's
Not
like
a question in the
it's
playoffs.
yeah, it's like apparently he's not a question mark. So it's like even though we just kind of saw like the past 2.5 months of the regular season, Kelsey kind of be a non-factor, and the Chiefs
Hmm.
still managed to win the games, or at least some of them. And Travis Kelsey hasn't skipped a beat, and it's like I don't understand how the Chiefs go into that game and lose. I just don't see. And like you got the press conference interviews of Mahomes calling out Niners fans, like, and Kelsey getting
Uh-huh.
booed and he's getting fired up. It's like we're giving them
Man, those
a reason to play, and that's dangerous. That's scary.
I hated those press conferences. They were so
Yeah,
bad.
I
None
don't
of them
remember
were
them
about
ever
football.
doing this.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
remember
I
them
feel
doing
like
this in previous
last
years.
year, maybe 2 years ago too, was kind of like it, but yeah, it's getting out of hand. The questions that they're
Yeah,
asking.
yeah.
Come on.
Um, and my final score prediction, I actually got an extra credit assignment in one of my classes, and it was like, everybody write down your name and your score prediction, and for like extra credit points. And my final score, I'm gonna stand on it. I think it's gonna be Chiefs 38 to Niners 24. I got a
Oh
high
my
scoring game. I'm
God, I
smashing
love
the
it.
over,
I
and
love it.
I just think it's gonna be one of those games where it's like Chiefs have everything going for them on offense, and all they need to do is get a couple stops early. And I could see it even being like
Yeah.
a two possession game in the Chiefs' favor for most of the game. And maybe the Niners score touchdowns in garbage time to make that final score 24-38. Like I I think the Chiefs are just gonna have too much on offense,
Mm,
and it's gonna be like we've seen the Niners secondary struggle against the Lions, and they're gonna have to face Patrick Mahomes.
yeah.
So hold on, this
I
dog's tweaking.
I as well. I'm going for a high scoring game. I'm going Chiefs 31, Niners 28. I was just saying my score. I'm saying also high scoring, Chiefs 31, Niners 28. And I'm going the win is on a field goal.
Okay, I like it.
Like as time runs out, I think we win on a field goal. I
I
think
love
it's going to be a
how,
close game all game. I don't think one team is ever going to have the lead, even though both teams love to play either getting out in front early or losing early. But I think it's going to be a close game the whole time. Never going to be like more than a 10-point difference, and the Chiefs are going to
yeah,
pull it out.
and I love how basically for the first half of this segment, we were talking about how good the defenses were, and I had just them both just destroying the overs. I feel
I
like,
said the same thing for the Ravens game, and I was completely wrong. I was like, I think these two offenses are going to overpower their defenses. And I
yeah,
said like what, 35 to 31 or something,
yeah,
and it was 17 to 10.
like I just think we've seen the Niners secondary struggle. What do the Chiefs excel at? Throwing the ball. And
Hmm.
And the Niners, like Brock Purdy, their passing game, I could see them struggling. And what do the Chiefs have really well? A good secondary. So
Hmm.
it's like I just think that the game is kind of like in the Chiefs' favor when in a scheme way, even though if Niners get that run game established, if they start the ball and they get that run game established,
It's the
that's when
thing
the
I'm
game
worried
can get out
about.
of hand.
Yeah, because
I was
our
gonna say that's when the game can go completely different than what I'm predicting is if the Niners can establish that run game and then we see less time on the clock and then we kind of see one of those scenarios where it's kind of like that Ravens Chiefs
yeah,
game where it's like just kind of a low scoring defensive like dogfight, you know?
I think the most important player on our defense this game will be Mike Dana. He's our backup D lineman. He's gonna come in. He starts here and there, but he's gonna like fully fill the role for Charles Omenihu, which oh my god, that sucks that he tore his ACL. Like he's so
Yeah.
good, and he's gonna miss a lot of next season too, probably because of
Yeah,
it,
an
because it's
ACL
so
tear late in
late.
the season
Yeah,
sucks because it
sucks.
carries on to next season too.
Yeah, but
You see that all the
Mike
time in
Dana.
baseball too, like pitchers getting
Yeah,
Tommy John surgery in the middle of the
late
season. It's like not only do you miss them for the playoff run, but you miss them to start
next
next
season.
season.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, which especially if we lose Chris Jones, then we will really need to have Amenahu step up next year, which I really hope, I really hope we can keep both Snead and Chris Jones. But personally, I hope that we focus on getting Snead
need
in first, just
need
because he's younger, cornerback. He won't be quite as much money. Chris Jones, he's old. He's still amazing. But I think we have a little bit more depth at D line than we do at corner too. We have like no depth at corner. I think we have four corners on the roster right now. But yeah, I think he'll be big. He'll be big.
and I think when it comes to that like Snead versus Jones like discussion, like ideally you want both, but
Oh, of course.
what's been the Chiefs' bread and butter this year is that lockdown secondary. That's what's won them their games, you know. And I
Uh-huh.
feel like the Chiefs are aware of that, and I feel like that with Trent McDuffie, they got really good playmakers in the secondary. I think they're gonna want to stay dominant. I don't think that they're gonna be like, hey, we
Yeah.
got Trent McDuffie, we got some dudes we can do without Snead. I think they're gonna be like, no, let's keep it locked down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's maybe go out in the draft and maybe look for some defensive linemen. I
Yeah.
feel like
All right.
I really
Hey,
don't know
let's
what's
let's
easier to
let's tone
develop.
down the off season talk. That's
Okay, that's
for like
fair.
a week or two. That's
That's
for a
fair.
week or two.
I like I don't know what's easier to develop, a defensive lineman or a corner. I feel like
I
elite
would
corners are kind of harder to find, but I
mhm.
feel like it's maybe easier to get a lower floor for defensive linemen.
Yeah.
Um,
I would say
so
it would be easier to develop a D lineman.
yeah,
Which
I feel so too.
I was saying to Nate the other day, like I if we are not able to get both Snead and Jones, which there's probably a high chance of us not getting both of them because we have other like key role players
Oh my
that we
gosh.
also need to re-sign too. And
Yeah,
I was saying like I would go and draft a D line first round and then take a wide receiver second round.
yeah. Them making the Super Bowl hurts because
Yeah,
well, it doesn't hurt, but it lowers
yeah.
their draft pick. And
Uh-huh.
so when you
Our
kind of
pick
thought
would
that
have
they can
been
maybe
much
go out and
higher.
get when you thought that they could have gone out and gotten a like a higher end weapon in the draft, they've fallen and it's going to be significant. Like the difference between Brian Thomas Jr. and whoever would be in like that later round, like an Adonai Mitchell or whatever, that's a pretty significant
Mm,
drop off in my opinion. And so at
I'm
that point, I
really
would probably go
interested.
with the defensive player.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see if we trade up. I don't think we will,
Yeah,
but it could be an option. But also, uh, like free agency is still an option to get another
yeah,
wide receiver. So if
yeah,
we can't get a wide receiver or the wide receiver that we want or would fit best for us, we can always either
yeah.
trade or get
There's a lot of
someone
good
in free
ones
agency.
in free agency. So
Yeah,
yeah, so final picks, we both had Chiefs. Super Bowl MVP is not really kind of a discussion because it would be very clearly Mahomes no matter
hmm
what. Even if he played bad, it
I
would
could definitely
it
see
would be
Kelsey
Mahomes still. I mean, unless Kelsey has like a
with
Gronk game
his.
where he has two touchdowns, it's
Yeah,
gonna be
exactly.
Mahomes no matter what.
I could
And
completely see Kelsey repping two touchdowns for the boys, though.
that is fair too.
Oh,
Big stage, Taylor Swifties, watching
exactly.
that,
In
all the
Vegas.
spotlight on him in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a fun time, fun game.
yeah. I'm excited for the Super Bowl. Um, obviously, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm probably gonna sprinkle some money on the Chiefs, and by sprinkle I mean hammer Chiefs.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say on the Super Bowl. Do you have any other final thoughts?
That's about it. I think we hit a lot of different things there.
Yeah,
Kind of got off topic too.
like I said, I think Chiefs are gonna kind of dominate because they're gonna have their advantage, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But Then again, if Niners get off to a strong start, it will be a lot closer than what I'm predicting. It could go either two ways. Really close,
What was your
dominant
score
run game
again?
for the Niners.
You
I
said
had 38-24. And like
38-24.
some of the points
14
I have the
point
Niners
difference.
scoring in garbage time. So yeah, I mean
I would
give the Chiefs the
love
lead, it's
that.
hard for them to lose. It's hard for them to lose with the lead.
I've been saying.
I think I think
Yeah.
that they're gonna get the lead early,
Mhm.
and that's what I'm gonna roll with. Is just a high
I
scoring
love it.
game.
I love it. We'll wait and see, or we'll
Yeah.
wait to see who's right. But we're both gonna be right. So pretty
Yeah.
confident. I'm not confident. Pretty scared actually.
Okay. Well, so yeah, that's our Super Bowl predictions. Next segment, we're gonna be talking about. This is gonna be a lot of me yapping at the beginning, and then I guess Ethan will kind of have his 2 cents thrown into the conversation. But last podcast, I mentioned that Luka Doncic is a fraud.
Mhm.
And I do want to address the elephant in the room. I don't want this to get twisted. I respect Luka Doncic as a top 10 player in the league. I like you literally would have to not watch basketball or know anything about the NBA to say that Luka Doncic is not good at basketball. I'm
Mhm.
not saying that he's not good at basketball. He literally dropped a 73 point, like
Yeah,
15 assist game.
he's crazy.
He's like leading the league in like points. um, I know Luka Doncic is good at basketball. Okay, like let's not get this twisted. But at the same time, we have to criticize Luka Doncic, and that's why I want to be vocal about this. Is because I feel like no one is. I don't feel like I feel like it's a very small crowd of people that are actually critical about Luka Doncic and his play style. If you watch Luka Doncic on defense, he is the worst defensive player in the NBA, even over
He
Trey Young.
is. He
I'm like,
is. He's so bad.
people were bashing Trey Young for being super bad at defense. And I feel like no one really kind of talks about how bad Luka is on defense. You can't like in crunch time, like against that Magic game that they had about a week ago, it was like a 4 or 5 point game, and he let Van Carroll blow past him 2 plays in a row to make it a 1 point game. I don't care if you're the offensive engine or if you're the star player. I don't care if people say that you're better than Dirk Nowitzki. I don't care what people say about you on offense. You have to play defense in crunch time, even if it's a regular season game. It's the Orlando Magic.
Hey, they're
You
a good team.
have to, they're good. They're not great. You have to play defense. You have to step up and win that game. Um, they did end up winning that game, but it was way closer than it needed to be because Luka provides literally, literally nothing on defense. Um, Another reason why I'm also passionate about this is because I'm a big Harden guy. If you don't know, Harden was my favorite
Riley
player,
loves
and
him.
he still is one of my favorite players. But James Harden, what we saw him do in his prime, people couldn't stand it. People couldn't stand that he was just going out there doing whatever on offense and not playing any defense. I want it to I want the same energy about Luca. I want people to start. Can you quit? I'm sorry, these dogs are making me tweak. But but I just want to address Luka Doncic on defense is so bad. And not only that, but there's a graphic going around of the Mavericks a couple years ago with Luka Doncic, Jalen Brunson, and Kristaps Porzingis. And they didn't really they couldn't do anything. And the second Kristaps and Jalen Brunson leave, we see them both be top elite players on some of the best teams in the East. Like the
Yeah.
Knicks and the Celtics. Celtics, for one, the Celtics are the best team in the East at the moment, and the Knicks are playing really good basketball as of recently, and they're a top four seed in the East. And that's because of Jalen Brunson and Kristaps Porzingis. And I think the reason why we couldn't really see that coming is because when they were on the Mavericks, they couldn't do anything because Luka Doncic needs the ball in his hands to be good. I'm not saying that Luka can't play off ball, but that offense is ran through Luka, and I feel like it eats into the ceilings of the players around him. And yeah, that's naturally going to happen when you have such a ball dominant
Hmm.
offensive guard like Luka. But at the same time, it's like why do you need someone that good if he's just going to take away from the talent around him? Um, And so I don't know if you have anything in response to that, but I just do think that it's like we like to praise Luka for being a top five player, a top three player, the best offensive player in the league, and yet they're barely beating mid ass teams like the
I mean,
Hawks and Magic by 3 and 5 points because his play style.
well, right now, the team around him is not good. It's just not a good team around him right now. But
I mean, they got
I
some
do hear
dudes
you.
like
I do hear you, and I do see your point. But my only thing to it is like, what is it that's proving that the problem is Luka? Like, besides them not winning anything, like what is proving to you that Luka is the problem or the problem, like you said?
mhm. I think kind of going back to that Jalen Brunson, Kristaps Porzingis point, and even like, do people know Kyrie Irving's on the Mavericks? I know he's been hurt, but it's like
Yeah.
they Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving were on a team last year, and they were in playoff contention, and they missed the play-in games. It
Lamar Jackson MVP.
Yes, that got announced earlier.
Oh, it did. I just
I don't think
got the
it.
notification.
Oh, okay. I don't think it was unanimous. It very well should have been because before the playoffs started,
Yeah,
everybody and their mom knew
it
Lamar
wasn't
Jackson was going to win.
it wasn't unanimous, and I'm glad. I really
That's
hope the
fair.
other votes
CMC
went to
definitely got
CM.
some votes.
Yeah.
Yeah, CMC definitely got some votes.
No.
But yeah,
Sorry.
shout out
Go
Lamar.
back.
No, you're good.
Doncic.
But back to what I'm saying is when it comes to the Mavericks last year, I think if you replace Luka with any top 20 player, like Jalen Brown, even just Jalen Brunson by himself, any top 20 player in the league, they make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like there hasn't been a team with those two good of players to miss the play in, not even miss the playoffs, to miss the play in games.
Hmm.
Like the last 20 games of the season, they knew that they were in playoff contention and they couldn't win games.
Yeah.
They couldn't win games. And I truly believe that if you put someone on that team to distribute the ball around a little bit more, and it is a little crazy to say if they didn't have Luka, they would have made the playoffs. But it's like how do you miss the playing games
Yeah.
in the
No, I'm
West, bro? Like
like
how do you miss
they're
the
a good team
playing
too.
games?
And they've got star
Like
players, but
it's like I just don't understand. And like no one talked about it. No one like there was no bash around Luka Doncic
there
for that.
wasn't.
Dude, if Steph Curry was on that team and they missed the playoffs, Steph
Oh,
Curry would have gotten bashed. If Kawhi Leonard was on that team and they missed the playoffs, Kawhi Leonard's gonna get bashed. If Paul George is on that team, Paul George getting bashed. James Harden, Joel Embiid.
yeah.
It's like if we're gonna put Luka in that conversation of one of the top players, and we gotta give him disrespect where it's due. Like missing the playoffs last year is unacceptable. I didn't hear Luka Doncic's name for a whole year, and I wonder why. It's because that motherfucker wasn't in the playoffs.
Because he
So
wasn't doing shit.
2
Yeah.
months of basketball went by, and Luka wasn't playing. So yeah, we're not going to be talking about him. And no one. It's like we just forget. We forget that he missed the playoffs with a top a top five point guard on his team.
Do you
Like
think um
make
or
it make
what do you
sense. That's
think
all I'm asking.
his defense or his need to have the ball is the bigger problem? Because
Defensively, it
they're
is the bigger
definitely both
problem.
problems, and I see both problems too. Like he
Yeah,
needs the ball on offense to
yeah.
do anything.
I I don't want to discredit him on offense as much because he is that good at offense.
Yeah,
He does make it look super
he
easy. And there's
can.
not a shot on the court he can't make. Half court shots, he can make that. Fade
Hmm.
away, mid range, he can make
He
that.
can make
He'll even mess around and throw a dunk down on your bitch ass every
it.
now and then. It's like Luka as an offensive player. I mean, you can even go as far to say that he's the best offensive player in the game right now. Like, but it does take
Stats
away,
wise, I think like he
yeah.
is the best offensive
Mhm.
player right now.
And
He's
when you
almost
watch him
averaging a
play,
triple double. He's like one assist or one rebound off of a triple double,
yeah,
averaging
yeah,
in what is it, 50 games now? Like that's
yeah.
crazy.
And so offensively, he's dominant. And like it does take away from the offense a little bit because he does need the ball in his hands kind of at all times. Defensively is the bigger problem for me because
Yeah,
it's like he literally has no effort on defense
yeah.
whatsoever. And since Luka's so good at offense, you can take away, you don't need as many offensive players, so you can have players that focus more on defense, which, yeah, that helps, but you're also such a liability that teams are
Hmm.
going to target him to the point where your defensive players around Luka on the court can't really do anything when the point guard's running by Luka or just absolutely exposing
Yeah.
him in a pick and roll or whatever
When
it
you get
is.
to that point, if teams are like targeting you when you're playing defense, that's never a place you want to be.
Exactly. And and like I said, I still recognize Luka as a top 10 player. Like he is extremely valuable to that Mavericks team. But I just don't understand how we can give so much praise to Luka Doncic when he hasn't won a ring, when he hasn't been to finals, when he misses the playoffs.
Do you
I
think
like I think we just need to calm down when it comes to Luka because it's like even Harden when he was in his prime and we saw him at his peak, he was a better offensive player and a better offensive engine and a better offensive system than what Luka is. And I feel like
Mhm.
people are giving Luka more respect than what we did when Harden was doing it. And I don't know if it's because people like that Luka's like European and he's a fun player and he's just I don't know what it is about him, but it's like I think we need to lower how we rank him until he proves it. If Luka this year goes around, makes another Western Conference Finals run, and he takes like a Nuggets or a Clippers to Game 7, then I
Yeah.
feel like we can maybe give his respect a little bit more
Uh-huh.
because it's like we've seen him make the Western Conference Finals twice now. But at the same time, it's like we can't just say that he's an automatic top five player, top three player when he hasn't done anything to back it up.
I have
Like
another
when he made the
question.
when he made the Western Conference Finals, it was literally the bubble.
Yeah, it
Like
was.
we haven't seen the Mavericks do anything in the playoffs since
It
the
was a Mickey
bubble,
Mouse
and that feels
tournament.
like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I just don't understand how people can call him like this. It literally feels like he's a golden child. Like he literally can't do anything
He
wrong.
is. He's their baby boy. He's their poster boy. Like
Yeah,
he's theirs. Like he's owned by the NBA pretty much.
yeah.
But another question. So your argument was kind of, will he ever win a finals or a title? But my question to you, like which do you think has more odds of happening? Him winning a title or him winning an MVP?
Him MVP without a doubt. I actually
Yeah.
part of the reason why I wanted to have this conversation is because I wanted to put this on the record. I don't think Luka Doncic will ever win a ring with him being the best player on the court. I think it literally would have to take him pairing up with Jokic, Joel Embiid, or Giannis or Kawhi Leonard to win a ring. I literally think that that's what it would take. Because him being the best player, which that's how Luka plays. Luka plays like he's the best player. I don't think that that play style with Luka being the best player, I don't think he'll ever win a ring. And I think a lot. And what did the Mavericks do at the trade deadline? Nothing
Mm-mm.
because they know that if they go out and get a star like they did last year with Kyrie Irving, it's going to do nothing but set them back in the future even more
Uh-huh.
because Luka can't play with big stars. He can't because he needs the ball in his hand and he provides nothing on defense. That's a
What
recipe
should
for disaster. You can't win a title like that.
what should the Mavs do then? Do they get that massive big player somehow, or do they build around the youth with Doncic and just try to tailor to his game?
I think the answer has happened this morning when the trade deadline happened. We saw the Mavericks not do anything.
Yeah.
And I think the Mavericks know that if they go out to make a move, it's going to explode in their face.
Hmm.
And just play the weight game, give Luka as many opportunities as he can to go play hero ball and say, hey, he made the Western Conference Finals once, it wasn't good enough. Let's see if he can do it again. And I
Yeah.
think that that's the smarter thing to do because I do think if they were to go out and make some crazy trade like they did for Kyrie, or they were to go out and make a trade for a better power forward or a big, it would just explode in their face because I don't think that it would work. I don't think it would be enough to put them over the top, especially this year. Like I think if the
They're
Mavericks
not
and the
good this
Thunder
year.
played, I think the Thunder wipes them. I think the
Yeah.
Nuggets wipe them. I think the Clippers wipe them. I think the Suns, even though Luka Doncic beat the Suns that one year, they didn't have KD that year. I feel like it's it's just a recipe for disaster when you have Luka Doncic
Yeah.
as
I
I'm gonna
I
kill this
definitely
dog.
I definitely agree with that. I think that they are just not a good team this year. I think a lot of people go by them in the playoffs. If they make it to the playoffs, they might not even make it to the playoffs. Who do you think they make the playoffs?
They'll make the playoffs
You think they
because
will? I
I do
think
think they'll
there's a
make the
chance that they
playoffs.
don't make the playoffs.
They're literally we saw it last year. They I just don't understand how
They're not a
people
good team
think
this
that
year.
I just don't understand how people have faith in the Mavericks after what happened. I truly don't understand how
Yeah.
no one is talking about them missing the playoffs last year because they're I don't care what the team is. If we take the Pistons, get rid of Cade Cunningham and replace him with any top 10, 15 bro, put Brandon Ingram or Zion on that team. They would make the play like a top 20 player
You think they would?
just that's a little egregious, but it's like a top 20 player doesn't just miss the playoff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No,
and
I
people
see your
say
point.
Luka's top five. How do you miss the playoffs as a top five player? Last time we saw a top five player miss the playoffs was Steph Curry that year on that trash Warriors team. And what did he do the next season? Win the finals. So unless Luka Doncic wins the finals this year, he needs to be disrespected. He literally just, I don't understand how people are just forgetting that. It makes no sense.
Uh-huh. Well,
And
what can we do but wait, you know?
yeah, I can't wait because every time I come on this podcast and say something like the Ravens or the Niners, it just explode or us talking about the Cavaliers sleeping and then they go on like a 20-5 win
Uh-huh.
streak. Anytime I say anything, I'm just a jinx, bro. So sorry, Chiefs. Apparently you're gonna lose the Super Bowl because I have you winning it. And shout out all my Mavericks fans because I just won you guys a title for saying that they're never gonna win a title with Luka Doncic. So you're welcome. Um, but yeah, like again, I know I just bashed Luca for like the past 10, 15
Hey,
minutes,
you gave him
but
some
I do want to
props.
give him his flowers. He is a once in a lifetime offensive player. And I saw a very interesting post where it was about Dirk Nowitzki and Luka Doncic, who's better. And although Dirk had the ring, as player for player, they both really didn't provide anything defensively, and they both weren't like exceptionally like good rebounders. So who's the better offensive player? Luka's in that conversation to be better than Dirk. Like he
He
really
is.
is that
I
kind of
agree. He
player, but
is.
it's like his play style and the fact that he provides literally nothing on defense, I
He
just don't think they'll ever win a
he
ring,
has a play
unfortunately.
style of no one else in this world. Like
Yeah.
he's the only
He is a
person that
unicorn.
plays like him. Yeah.
Yeah. And kind of how like people talk about Harden being a system, Luka's the system. And unfortunately, I just don't think that system is gonna be enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, shout out Luka for being a top 10 player, but I think that he deserves a little bit of shade and disrespect thrown his way. And that's what I wanted to address on this podcast. I
Mhm.
want more people to be aware of when we talk about Luka Doncic. And
Mhm.
that was kind of my main goal.
I think you said your point well.
Yeah, that's us talking about Luka Doncic. Um, Now we're gonna go into a segment I'm excited. This probably won't be the
Tweet,
last
tweet,
time
tweet.
you guys see this segment. I kind of want to make this kind of like our Would You Rather, where we make it a reoccurring segment because I feel like I'm excited to do this one.
Yeah.
And I went on Twitter.
This is gonna be good.
I found some hot takes, and we're gonna buy or sell them. We're gonna see if we agree with them, and we're just gonna kind of have fun with it, see how they age. So yeah, let's just hop right into it.
I'm so
So
glad you got on Twitter.
I know the first one I'm most excited. I don't know if I'm most excited to talk about this one because I got some juicy ones, but first one is despite the Texans winning a playoff game this past year, they actually aren't the team to beat coming in the future. So it was talking about this dude thinks that the Colts are actually going to have a brighter future than the Texans moving forward. Buy or sell?
Wow. I'm
And
gonna
right
sell
off,
on that.
yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
think
sell.
it's a hot take for a reason because it's like, how do you pick against a team that just
Yeah.
won the offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year, and D'Amico Ryan's coach of the year? It's
I
like,
mean,
how do you pick
yeah,
against that?
we haven't seen too much of Big Tony, but CJ Stroud is him.
Yeah,
So,
CJ Stroud just had arguably one of the best rookie seasons of all time for a
uh-huh.
quarterback, and he beat Puka Nacua out for offensive rookie of the year for a reason. Even though Puka Nacua beat all the like rookie receiving yard records and all
Crazy
that,
season.
um, CJ Stroud's him, and
Yeah.
Texans definitely found their guy, and they messed around and won a playoff game this year on the road. And I think that's very good for them, and I think that they do have a very bright future. But I like this tweet a lot because I think it's very tempting for me to buy it actually because we saw the Colts and they were a game from making the playoffs
Uh-huh.
and they didn't even have their quarterback
Yeah,
in
and
which
he's good.
Anthony Richards
He showed some promise
to
for sure.
start the year was arguably playing better than
Yeah.
CJ Stroud. Unfortunately, he got hurt, and I feel like that is going to be one of the biggest problems with the Colts moving forward is Anthony Richardson's health because his play
Hmm.
style is very taxing on the body, and
Yeah.
that could permit a lot of injuries moving forward.
Hmm.
But I think the Colts very easily could be the best rushing team in the league next year when it comes to that Anthony Richardson and
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor read option.
I
I think that
definitely
they could
think
even,
they have a bright future for sure. Like
yeah,
they have a lot of talent on that team and youth too. Josh
yeah,
Downs, don't forget about him.
deal,
He's really good.
deal.
Yeah.
And I think Shane Steichen, we saw what he did on the Eagles. He's now the head coach of the Colts, or the head coach for the Colts.
Hmm.
And Colts almost made the playoffs with Gardner Minshew at QB. And
He's not bad.
they didn't even really expose what I think is going to be the driving factor of the Colts' success coming in the future, and that's that dominant run game. We saw what happened with the Ravens, and I'm not calling the Ravens were bad before they got Lamar Jackson, but once they got Lamar and they were able to get that dominant
Hmm.
run game because teams have to respect the read option, they they started dominating on offense. And I just I don't see why the Colts can't do the exact same thing with Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, and a very solid offensive line with Quentin Nelson.
Yeah.
And then you also
Don't
have,
forget about
even though
him.
Michael Pittman is a free agent, if they could re-sign him or go out and get another receiver in the draft, or they go out
Yeah.
and sign a receiver, they got a lot of cap space too. So it's like, I don't see why the Colts can't make a couple moves, have a good offseason, develop Anthony, have a full offseason with Anthony Richardson, and then just kind of, I could like, there's a world where the Colts can very easily win the division next year.
Yeah. I
And
just
so
think that CJ Stroud is gonna be an MVP quarterback eventually. I think
and
he's him.
that's why the take is hard because it's like both teams are set up so well for the future. Like these are
Uh-huh.
some of the brightest futures we have in the NFL, and
Yeah.
they're in the same
And
division.
of course, they're both in the AFC.
Yep. And I don't know. I like even though like it's a hot take for I feel like if there is a reason to buy a hot take, I feel like this is a very good take to
Uh-huh.
buy because
Yeah.
I feel like there is a very good world where we do see the Colts mess around, win the playoffs, win a playoff game, and they're maybe the Texans kind of had just like they were riding a lot of high energy and they kind of maybe flatline a little bit more, and we could see the Colts maybe overpass them. I don't know. Um, so yeah, I thought that was a very interesting one. I thought that was a good one to start off.
Yeah.
I'm probably, I guess since you sold, I'll buy it.
Uh,
But it again, it's like it's really hard to pick against CJ Stroud, especially after the year that he had. And
yeah.
Tank Dell got hurt, and they still were really good, and that offense
Uh-huh.
still didn't. And
Nico Collins is him.
I saw a lot of rumors of Saquon going to the Texans. That just makes that offense
Whoa.
even better.
That would be
And
insane.
and the Texans are very suited up to have a another great season next year. I think both teams. I think that both teams are going to actually pass the Jaguars. Not that I don't have faith in Trevor Lawrence or the Jaguars. I think that that's another team that could very easily be in playoff contention or not playoff contention, but
Yeah.
division winner contention,
I don't
and
know
they
how I
were
feel
this
about
year.
them.
Yeah, I feel like Jaguars took a step back this year, but previous year and to start the year this past season,
Yeah.
they were the team. I mean, they were the one seed in the AFC for the first like couple months of the season.
Uh-huh.
So it's like that's going to be a
Yeah.
it's going to go from the worst division to one of the best divisions very quickly. And that just shows you if you can draft a quarterback and find your guy, that it is extremely valuable to
Yeah.
go out and draft a QB. I know that there's been a lot of
Look at
busts
the
at
Chiefs.
QBs. Yeah, there's been a lot of busts at QBs recently, but there is a lot of value at QB and drafting
Yeah,
QB high. So I
for
just thought
sure.
that that was a very interesting one. Next one, this one's going to be another NFL one.
Let's hear it.
Um, Ravens are going to go out this offseason, sign Derrick Henry, and they're going to be the team to beat coming out of the AFC.
I
And
saw this one.
I'm actually right away going to buy it. I'm actually in favor of this one. And I know that the Ravens just lost to the Chiefs and it's a Chiefs dynasty, but I think if the Ravens, even without Derrick Henry, play the Chiefs again, that they could very easily win that game. I feel like if John Harbaugh doesn't give up on the run game as easily as he did in this
The
past AFC championship, I think that the Ravens are still kind of like that top team to beat, unless if
the thing is,
obviously if
I
they lose
think
Roquan Smith or they lose a lot of offensive pieces, that changes the take. But if the Ravens stay the same and they keep the same guys that they have currently, and they just go out and get one of the best running backs in the league and one of the best bruising running backs in the league, it's like that team is just going to be even better. And they were smacking everyone around in the regular season. So
I
I still
think
feel like the Ravens
we
are going to be the team to beat if that happens.
I think we as the Chiefs go out and make moves too, and we become a better team. That's the thing. Like I think
Yeah.
we become a better team too. Yeah, sure, they become a better team. They get Derrick Henry, but like worse, I think we'd still be that team.
Yeah, and that is a really good point because if the Chiefs go out and get T. Higgins, it's going to be hard to beat them as well.
Yeah,
So I guess that take is going to be a little bit more reliant on teams not really getting as significantly better and them getting Derrick Henry, and they just kind of maybe they. I feel like Ravens are at the top of the steps right now, and if they get Derrick Henry, they just go to the very top of the steps, you
yeah,
know. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and just buy that take right away, just because
Nah.
Derrick Henry and
So,
Lamar Jackson RPO, I don't want to think about that because that would be completely terrifying. And you pair that with one of the best defenses in the NFL. I like
mhm,
and we saw what the Ravens did this past season. I feel like they would be the team to beat still, even though the Chiefs beat them. Those are definitely
yeah,
like the two top teams. And Joe Burrow comes back. Bengals have a good offseason. Bengals are still going to be up there. Bills are going to be up there. But
yeah.
yeah.
I'm
I'm gonna go ahead
selling
and
that.
buy that one. I
Nope.
fell in love with that take when I saw it. It's just like if the Ravens get Derrick Henry, that I just feel like that's a nightmare for defenses.
Yeah, I did see that
So
one. I think I saw that today.
yeah. Um. So you're gonna sell that one. I'm gonna buy that one. This next one, this one hits home because we haven't talked about it on the podcast, but if you know me, you know that I'm a D1 Aaron Rodgers hater, and this take happens to have Aaron Rodgers in it.
Ooh.
So this take says Ben Roethlisberger is better all time than Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And there's a graphic. There's a graphic. Hear me out. Hear me out. I don't even know if I'm buying or selling this one, but this is the take. It goes, both of them played 18 seasons, uh, in which both of them had three Super Bowl appearances. Or sorry, Ben Roethlisberger had three Super Bowl appearances. Aaron Rodgers only had one. Ben Roethlisberger has two rings. Aaron Rodgers has one ring. Big Ben has 13 playoff wins. Aaron Rodgers only has 12. Big Ben is fifth all time in passing. Aaron Rodgers is ninth all time in passing. Big Ben is number three. Uh, he has fourth quarter comebacks. He's third all time with 41. Aaron Rodgers is only 28th all time in fourth quarter comebacks with 21. Big Ben is number one in 500-yard passing games. He has four. Aaron Rodgers has not had a single 500-yard passing game. And career wins, Big Ben had 166 to Aaron Rodgers 149.
Holy shit.
So
Ben
obviously some
Roethlisberger's a better quarterback.
the stats are there. And I do want to say this about one of these numbers is a little bit
Skewed.
the fourth quarter comebacks is a little misleading because there's probably a lot of games where Aaron Rodgers didn't need to have a fourth quarter comeback because the team was just winning. So
Fair. Fair.
maybe a
That's a
little
good
bite.
point.
I don't even know. I would have to look into it. Maybe not.
Well,
Maybe
the
uh
Steelers were like a better
yeah.
team. Like
So
they
I
were
don't know,
getting
but
more wins.
that stat has a little bit of bias in it potentially.
That's
But I listed a lot of stats in which Big
yeah.
Ben was the better quarterback.
Yeah.
And when you watch the two QBs, I feel like you would have to be kind of blind or crazy to say that Big Ben was more talented than A-Rod. I think everybody knows A-Rod had the better arm,
Uh,
like talent wise, had the better arm talent, but wins are there in Big Ben's favor. And
yeah.
I don't
That
think that you can argue that Big Ben had better teams around him because Aaron Rodgers had really, really, really good teams around him his
uh-huh.
entire career, in which he was not able to produce. He wasn't able to produce wins like Big Ben was.
Yeah, he had great team.
Um,
He always had a good team pretty
yeah,
much until like the end of his career there.
no, I disagree with that because
Really.
Aaron Rodgers, even bro, the Packers missed the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers. They get
Uh-huh.
Jordan Love and they win a playoff game the next season. Like, and they didn't really do anything crazy. It's like that team, like
True.
I've always thought Aaron
True.
Rodgers was over like oh we could always complain about not having enough weapons, like blah 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 this that. It's like, bro, the Packers are the best ran franchise in NFL history. They have never
Yeah.
had a bad team.
They're
Aaron
like
Rodgers, you've always had a
one
very good
of the
offensive line. You've
historically
always had
best.
an elite weapon, whether it was Devontae Adams, Jimmy Graham, Jordy Nelson. You've always had an elite weapon
Uh-huh.
around you. You've always had a very solid defense. And Matt LaFleur, we saw what he could do without Aaron Rodgers. We've always seen like Matt LaFleur's a very good head coach. And it's
Yeah.
like I feel like Aaron Rodgers has always had a solid team around him, no matter what point of his career, rookie season versus the last year that he was there. And so even though I'm a little
He's
biased because I am notorious for hating on Aaron Rodgers, the stats are there. Like I
I'm
feel like there
going
is a
with
very,
Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, yeah,
I'm
that
going with Aaron Rodgers.
it's a hot take for a reason because you kind of have to be a little crazy because talent-wise, Aaron Rodgers is the more talented QB.
Yeah.
But when you look at, but when you look at success, it's kind of like how Lamar won the MVP this year. Lamar had the better stats over Patrick Mahomes this year, but we know that Patrick Mahomes is the better QB. But like the regular season, when it came to like
Exactly.
wins and
Exactly.
production, and yeah, but when it came to like actual wins and production this season, Lamar had him. And so maybe that's the conversation that you want to bring into this debate where it's just like Big Ben's going to have more wins, he's going to have more Super Bowls,
Yeah.
but Aaron Rodgers was the better QB, I guess. But
He
I feel
was.
like they were both kind of put in similar situations where they were both on the same team for a really long time, always kind of had a good team around them. And yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a very interesting one because it's like I think that that's if you were to just ask someone without bringing up any stats at all, everybody and their mother would say Aaron Rodgers is better.
Yeah.
But maybe it's a lot closer than we think, you know?
Yeah.
Shout out Big Ben. I actually did not know Big Ben was I didn't know that he had that many like
Yeah,
good
that
looking stats and accolades. That
that's
kind of threw me
impressive.
off.
That did throw me off.
I also don't remember Big Ben having a 500-yard passing game, and he had four. And it's also kind of crazy to think about how Aaron Rodgers didn't have one. Um,
Whoa.
Even though 500-yard passing games are that's also maybe a biased stat because it's like, why do you need to get 500 passing yards in a game? It's like,
I
it's
mean,
like this.
Aaron Rodgers had a load of close games in his career where he
Yeah,
could have done that.
yeah. Um, but yeah, three Super Bowl appearances to one kind of just shows you choking
Yeah.
in the playoffs and how notorious Aaron Rodgers. And Rodgers is one of the most winning quarterbacks in playoff when it comes to playoff wins. He has 12 playoff wins. That's one of the best all time. And Big Ben had 13, and they both played 18 seasons. So you can't even be like, oh, he had more time to play to accumulate those wins. No, with the same amount of seasons played, Big Ben had more playoff success than Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers. So yeah, Aaron Rodgers, you're a fraud. Shout out Luka Doncic. You both are frauds.
This dude's an
Um,
all-time hater.
this next one, I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna sell right away. But again, the reason why
Will
I wanted
this
to
be
have
my
this is
first
because
buy?
no, I think you're gonna this one. This one is outlandish,
Ah,
but when you think about it, it's actually a lot closer than you think. This tweet says Joe Burrow isn't a top five quarterback in the NFL right now. And when you think about that, you're like, huh? Joe Burrow's arguably number two. But when you flip it on
no,
its head and you think about this, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, CJ
exactly.
Stroud, and then Justin Herbert. Like CJ Stroud and Justin Herbert are definitely questionable to put over Joe Burrow, but after what CJ Stroud this past year
Yeah,
with that
no,
team
he's
around him,
still top five.
yeah, Joe Burrow's still top five. Like this is definitely the hottest take out of all of them that I found. But
For sure.
but I mean, talent wise, like arm talent wise, Justin Herbert has Josh out or Joe Burrow beat. I think Josh Allen clears Joe Burrow at the moment just because the past two playoffs,
I
Josh Allen
I
played
think he does.
perfect
I feel like
football. Yeah, the
I
team didn't win, but he played perfectly in both games when it mattered. And so I think Josh Allen kind of clears Joe Burrow at the moment, and then Lamar Jackson, two-time MVP winner. Joe Burrow doesn't have an MVP. And then again, Justin Herbert and CJ Stroud. I think that that's going to be a little bit closer than what people are probably going to give credit uh,
yeah,
where it's due because Justin Herbert, talent wise, I feel like is maybe better than Joe Burrow. He doesn't have the playoff success, but I feel like Joe Burrow has also been put in maybe a better situation than what Justin Herbert was because Justin Herbert had one of the worst coaches
definitely.
in the NFL, and
He's
he wasn't
terrible.
throwing to Jamar Chase. And that Chargers defense was completely and utter fucking dog shit.
Oh my God, it's
And
terrible.
we saw, I mean, I also want to give Joe Burrow his credit. When he was a sophomore, that team was projected a top five pick in the draft, and he led them to a Super Bowl. And, Joe Burrow has that playoff success. He's the only active QB to beat Patrick Mahomes. Um, but it's like, I don't know. Again, when you say Joe Burrow's not a top five QB, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But I like it's maybe a
No,
conversation because if we see CJ Stroud
I'd put him
repeat
at
what he did
4.
this year, if we see CJ Stroud repeat what he did this year, I think CJ Stroud needs to be ahead of Joe Burrow, unless Joe Burrow makes another Super Bowl or does
Yeah,
something crazy like we've
exactly.
seen
Like if
previously.
if Joe Burrow goes off again, like it's
Yeah,
Joe Burrow still.
no, yeah, 100%. If Joe Burrow can do what he did that 2022 season where he led that Bengals team to the Super Bowl, if they can still have that success,
Yeah.
Joe Burrow's going to be a top three
Yeah,
quarterback in the league.
if he can
But
get him to the AFC Championship and lose to the Chiefs, then
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
Joe Burrow's top three.
Yeah.
But I mean, Lamar has two MVP. I feel like at each quarterback that you could argue over Joe Burrow that I mentioned, there is an argument to be had, even though that at the end of the day, again, like we said, Joe Burrow made the Super Bowl and he's the only active QB to beat Mahomes. So it's like you do have to be crazy
Hmm.
to to say he's not a top five QB. And I'm a big Joe Burrow fan, and that dude can ball, and
He
that
really
man is
can.
clutch.
He really can.
So
I love him too.
I would probably have Joe Burrow at three or four. So I am gonna sell the take. But when I saw that, I was like, what does he mean Joe Burrow's not a top five QB? I was thinking about it, and I was like, I see where he's coming
What?
from.
Yeah.
Like I could see where
Nah,
he's coming from.
that's too hot for
But
me.
yeah,
Too hot.
it's too hot at the moment. Maybe we can bring it up after next season. But I feel like to buy it, we gotta wait at least another year before we have
Yeah.
that conversation.
Yeah.
We got to see how Joe Burrow bounces back from this injury as well. Because if Joe Burrow
Uh-huh.
takes a step back,
That could
then
be
yeah,
something.
then that take is probably a buy.
Uh-huh.
But then again, if the Chargers suck again and they miss the playoffs and CJ Stroud kind of falls back to earth and Lamar chokes another playoff series, and Josh Allen continues to lose to Mahomes in the playoffs, it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
And there's a
so
good
that
chance that he could continue to lose to Mahomes in the playoffs too.
yeah. So yeah, that one's again, like I said, that's definitely like the hottest one that I like. That's one of the more hotter ones I had.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I thought it was interesting because it's kind of brought to life, or it kind of got put in the spotlight to me to think about how many really elite QBs there are in the
Yeah.
league, and
Uh-huh.
how maybe that's a conversation we have on a later date. The next and final tweet I had, this one's basketball, this one's NBA, and this is Trey Young is a top 7 guard in the league currently, and he didn't make the All-Star team this year. And I thought about it,
Off the
and
rip, I'd be like, he's top seven.
um, but again, it's close because there's some names that you could argue that are better than Trey Young, like Steph Curry, clear, Shea
Yeah.
Gilgeous-Alexander, clear.
Hmm.
This is where we kind of get a little bit more in the mix, like Damian Lillard, Jalen Brunson,
Uh-huh.
Kyrie, Luka. Luka clears. Luka's part of that top three. Even though I just
Luca
bashed
clears.
Luka,
Yeah.
Luka,
Luca
you clear
clears.
Trey Young.
Luca
I'll give you
clears.
that. You
Yeah.
you clear. But so there's a lot of very talented guards. James Harden, but like
Uh,
there's a lot of good guards in the league. And I feel like most people wouldn't say Trey Young is top 7 because he didn't make the All-Star team the past 2 years. But when I watch Trey Young play, that
he
brother's nice.
he's he's
He's a
awesome to
he's a
watch.
hooper. He's a
Uh-huh.
hooper.
He's
Um,
he's him.
I honestly do think that if the Hawks were a better team, and they had more like success when it comes to like actually winning games, I think that he would actually get the respect he deserves and would be a consensus top 7
Yeah.
guard in the league. But because that team can't win games, which I don't think it's Trey Young's fault. I think when we were talking about Luka Doncic and that team's success, that Luka is to blame. But Trey Young he's been like he improved a lot on the defensive side of the ball. Like he's not that bad at defense anymore. Like I want to give him his respect there. Like he's not this complete and utter let's go target Trey Young kind of guy. Like
Yeah.
he's
And
not
boy
that bad at defense anymore.
is he good on offense.
And that dude can't miss a shot
Yeah.
anywhere. That
Oh
dude
my
will be
God.
five
He's
deep
always
behind the
been
3-point
like
line.
that too.
Yeah, that brother's nice on offense. I think he's much improved on defense, and I think that Hawks team is really just bad. I like that Hawk
Yeah.
like
They're
Capella,
not good.
like DeJounte Murray's okay, but it's like why do you need another a guard when you have Trey Young? When they went
Yeah.
and made that DeJounte Murray trade, I was kind of like, what? They don't really need him, and he has been good for the Hawks, but I just feel like that team is just not in a position to win,
Yeah, it's
and so I
pretty
don't know. I don't
mid
know
team.
not even mid, bro. Like defensively,
Eh.
they're the worst team in the NBA defensively.
uh,
Like other than the
that's
Pistons, bro. Like
terrible.
that team is awful.
Yeah.
That team is like they're like one of their best players this year is a rookie. I forget his name. Uh,
Ooh,
I think his
bro,
last name's like
what?
Johnson. No, like one of their he was like, or he's not a rookie. I think he's a sophomore. He's like in talks for being like one of the most improved.
Jalen
Like
Johnson.
Jalen Johnson. He's like one of their best players, and
Who is
nobody know who the fuck is
oh
Jalen Johnson. Nobody knows who Jalen Johnson is, and he's like their third best player, other than DeJounte Murray and Trey Young. Like that team's just
that's
not
crazy.
good. So I feel like it's kind of unfair to. I feel like it's unfair to bash Trey Young for like team success. I mean, that dude beat the Sixers and made the Western Conference Finals
Huh.
the other year. It's
Yeah.
like Trey Young when he's got like a decent team around him, we've seen what he can do. And I just feel like the Hawks have done a really poor job at putting him in a position to succeed. And he's still averaging 27, like top 5 in the league in assists, like
Hmm.
averaging 10 assists a game. He might be the leader in assists. Wait, hold on. I actually want to look this up. He
How
might be
many
the
point?
leader.
He's got to be high in points too, no?
No, he's averaging 27. Let me look it up. He's averaging 27 and 11 on 44% efficiency.
Damn.
I'm gonna look at who's leading the league in assists. It's Tyrese Halliburton at 11.7, and then Trae Young's right behind him at 10.9. And
Holy.
oh, Tyrese Halliburton's another guard that we kind of forgot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but so we have Curry, SGA, Luka, Tyrese Halliburton, Kyrie, Harden, Trae Young. Like I feel like Trae Young's like on Harden and Tyrese Halliburton's like level. I really do.
I no,
Like
I think he clears Halliburton.
Trae Young.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that you would have to. I mean, there's a like Jalen Brunson's good, but I would rather have Trae Young. I think if you're the Knicks,
Uh-huh.
you maybe would rather have Trae Young as well. It's like
I would rather have Trae Young than Jalen Brunson.
yeah, so
I
I
mean,
think
he beat him in the playoffs.
yeah, hell, Trae Young might be top five. So um yeah, I don't know. I like that tweet because I do like Trae Young. Ice Trae. I love how he rises to the occasion when it comes to
E-
shit talking
yeah,
and
even though
how
he's
Knicks fans when he goes to the Garden, they are booing him the entire
it's
game. Literally
awesome.
chanting fuck Trae Young. They're literally
Yeah.
chanting that and he smiles and he's like, "All
Yeah.
right, watch this." And he goes out and wins that game,
This
Like
dude
he's the villain.
destroyed KU multiple times, but I love him. He's awesome. He's
Yeah.
electric.
He's a villain and he's a villain that I like to root for. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was the last tweet that I had. So we're definitely gonna have to do this segment again because
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun with it. I think that
for
in
sure.
the
I'll
future,
I'll get some too.
yeah, I think in the future, um, like get more like NBA. Maybe I do want to get to the. We haven't talked about baseball yet on this podcast,
Yeah.
but I do want to get to the point where we can talk about baseball. Unfortunately, baseball's a dying sport and it's the off season, so there's not a lot to talk about baseball. But in the future, I do want to like get some baseball hot takes in there because
Hmm.
baseball is like honestly one of the sports I have some of the best knowledge on. So I can't wait for that. And
Yeah.
then college, we can have hot takes for
College.
college.
Oh,
I
for
know that you're
sure.
big on college,
I
especially
can
when it
get
comes to
some for
March
that.
Madness.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Like have a March Madness hot take segment. That'd
Oh,
be a lot
we'll
of
have
fun.
an entire episode just on brackets.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited. A team that look out for that I have been a big fan of is Tennessee.
Fuck
Tennessee,
Tennessee.
what you mean? They're
No. Fuck
nice.
Dalton Neck too.
Dude, they're nice with it, bro. The other day I was watching the Kentucky Tennessee game, which I didn't know that they were rivals for whatever reason. I didn't really
What?
know that they were rivals.
How?
No, yeah,
Okay.
no, they're
No,
rivals.
I do know that
Oh,
they're rivals.
I don't know. I guess maybe just Kentucky historically is always just shit on them. That like it's like one of those like before recent years, K-State versus KU was like really never like that big of a contention. But the only reason why you kind of know is because they're both like Kansas teams. I don't know. But it's like I don't know. I didn't really know that
Yeah.
Tennessee and Kentucky were like huge rivals, but they are.
Yeah.
But and so we were watching that game and my friends put a lot of money on Kentucky and I was like, Tennessee's nice with it, bro. Like that's a top five team in the nation.
Yeah.
And they scored 100 points, no overtime.
Yeah.
100 points, no overtime is crazy. When you see
They're
triple digits
good.
in a college game,
What's the
like you don't really
what's
see
the
triple
shooter's
digits.
name?
I don't really know. I don't really know players' names, but I just kind of know like overall team like success at the moment. I do want to get into like players. Like I do want to get to that point where I know like a lot of college players for like the
Yeah.
tournament's sake. But at the moment, I just
You
kind of know.
you you gotta lock in. Now's the time
I
to
know.
lock in because
Yeah,
conference play is getting serious.
yeah, uh, yeah. I know that the top three teams at the moment are UNC, UConn, and Purdue.
Santiago Vescovi. I hate him.
What a name though.
Yeah, sick
That's a
name.
fire name.
He
But
he's
yeah,
from he's from Uruguay.
yeah. Hopefully next podcast we're gonna have a pretty good segment on college basketball. I would love to get more knowledge on that, like in that realm. And
Yeah.
I know that you love college basketball, especially being a
Uh-huh.
KU fan. It's like it's hard not to love college basketball when you're a KU fan.
Yeah.
Um,
I've got a lot of
uh,
takes for college basketball.
even though they did lose to K State the other day,
Yeah,
my baby.
we aren't very good when we're not at Allen Fieldhouse.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think that's going to be it for this podcast. A little bit shorter episode this week, but we'll have another episode next week, and hopefully we'll talk about college basketball. We'll summarize the Super Bowl because by the time we record the next episode, Super Bowl will have already happened.
Yep.
We'll have some more hot takes for you guys, and hopefully we'll have a juicy would you rather. We'll hint he's gonna be playing on Sunday. I got a would you rather for a
Ooh.
player that's playing this next Sunday, which I think could maybe not get heated, but that I'm excited for that. That's all I'm gonna say.
Bet,
I'm excited to talk about this player because a lot of people have a lot of different outlandish things to say about him. So I'm excited for that.
bet. And
Yeah,
hopefully
that's
a golf
all.
podcast coming
Oh
soon.
yeah, I probably won't be on the golf episode because I literally know nothing about golf and I suck absolute fucking horse shit at golf.
We'll
So
get
that's
my
more
boy
Ethan's
Mac on
realm.
here
Yeah,
and
that's
Luka.
more that's more Ethan's realm. But yeah, there'll be a golf episode for you guys soon. And yeah, I'm excited. I thought this
Hmm.
was a good episode. And yeah, that's gonna be it for me.
Yeah. All right.
All right. All right.
Peace.